How's it going, everybody? Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. My name's Will. I call this the Rat Chat, not to be confused with the Snitch Chat. This is just for us to hang out, talk music community, have different people on that are interesting, that have different perspectives on things. And today is no different. You know, I've got a well-rounded guy. So I'm going to bring you guys Rod Wallace.
Peace.
What's going on, my man? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me, Will.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this because everybody has teachers, right? I mean, we all have that guy or that girl, woman that inspired us in some way. Either maybe they inspired our kids or something. Maybe we didn't have a great teacher, but we all know somebody that has inspired the youth. And I remember mine, and I see him every once in a while at like the grocery store or something like that. And it's still cool to see him because he impacted my life at that time when I really needed it, you know? And so I think that the work that you're doing is really great. And so we're just going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that intersection between being a music producer and being a father, being a teacher, trying to help implement some of the processes that go down in your area. And yeah, this is just going to be really cool. So I hope anybody that's here just wants to hang out, feel free to drop a comment if you have one, and we'll just kick it off. If you want to tell us where you're from and just give anybody that might see this either now or on playback a chance just to know a little bit about you.
Okay. I was born in Flint, Michigan, several years ago. I ended up leaving Flint to go to college, go to Eastern Michigan University, where I got a degree in history and had the intention of being a history professor. But I ended up teaching fifth grade and going back to school and getting my master's in education and ascending through education from being a teacher to being a curriculum coordinator to being a lead teacher to being an administrator, and ultimately becoming a principal. And I had the opportunity to return to Eastern Michigan to not only direct one of their federally funded programs, but also I had the opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into my love for music. All throughout that time, I was actually producing, learning how to mix, learning how to record, learning how to engineer. I created, along with a gentleman named Mike Mosley, we created a production company called Double Negative People. We worked on a lot of projects over the years. Once I got into school leadership, I kind of walked away from it, but I had the opportunity to help to found a music production program that still exists at River Rouge High School. I have their sweater on today. It's called RAMP, River Rouge Audio and Music Production. And I wanted to know more. I wanted to understand more about how students work in terms of developing certain competencies and how those competencies could be met through music production. So again, I had the opportunity to help develop the program, but there was no theoretical framework really behind it. It was just and it has an outstanding instructor who is a musician and engineer himself. I wanted to learn more about how does the brain actually work and develop these understandings and these competencies along with understanding music. So
It's amazing, bro.
I actually ended up going back to Eastern and directing the program. But while I'm there, I'm working on my PhD. And that's really the focus of my study is on producer culture, music production programs that are both formal and informal, and how they can intersect with STEM competencies, social justice, mental health. So there's a lot that's kind of going on it, but it's all focused around the process of beat making.
That's amazing. I mean, I just found this button. I don't know if it's appropriate, but bro, I can't even tell you, man. It sounds like you found an avenue where your passions for outside of occupational efforts meet with your creative talents, and people are going to benefit from that. I did see a post that you made recently. Very interesting, actually. I thought. What does think stand for?
Think, think.
So
Oh, you
without
know
putting you,
what? I think that was a sign that I saw in a school.
it
Um,
says think. So T, is it true? H,
oh, it was for before people start to say things, what they
right,
should consider.
right.
Is it true? Is it remind me of what H is?
So I've got it up. It says the H is for helpful. So is it helpful? Is it inspiring?
Yeah.
Bam. Is it necessary? Is it kind?
So I had the shortened version of it for years when I was a teacher. I always, and I still challenge my kids to follow it at all times, is before you open your mouth, is it kind? Is it necessary? Those are things that a teacher who was my mentor, Miss Watson, she kind of told me about when I was just beginning to teach. So I
So
saw
do
that
you have
sign actually in an after school program that my son is involved in, and it kind of reminded me of that. So I take pictures of stuff that kind of I run across within the field that I think are inspiring.
and what my purpose, what I try to do here is to try to just like shine a spotlight on the people that I feel are inspiring,
Mm.
because I have a small platform, but you know what? Somebody might see this video, and there is links to I call him Rod Wall. So Rod Wall's got links in the description, and you can get. He's got another effort that he's been putting together, helping with the Dirty Old Men projects.
Yep.
So that's also in the description. I do actually want to get the mic note stuff and put
Okay.
that in there as well. One of them was the plug-in. So anybody, do you want to shout out any of those?
Oh man, I, I'm doing. That's what's kind of crazy is that I'm involved in this kind of blob of hip hop and education kind of things, and it's I don't really have the only home that I have for all of it is kind of like my
Right.
Facebook and my Instagram. That's where I kind of capture everything or whatever. So the plugin is something that I created as a part of an independent company that I have that is intended to focus specifically on filling the needs that producers and creators have. So engaging with producers and music creators in terms of filling their needs, not just looking at them as being end users, but more so look at them as what competencies and skills do they want to develop. So, for example, I in my first year of research, I found that um, the vast majority of people who were self-identifying producers who are above the age of 18 identified themselves as being adept at being able to learn new technologies. They also, I sent a survey out about a year ago. I don't know if you remember, but uh,
Maybe.
yeah, and taking that data and kind of making some light
Mm.
correlation. Nothing ever absolutely correlates, but
Was
uh,
that a school? Like, was that for your PhD?
it was. It was.
That's awesome.
I was in a quantitative methods class, and so we had to create a survey and be able to gather the data, and be able to, identify some implications of the data. So I found that the producers had a higher, for producers versus non-producers, they believe in their own efficacy. They believe that
Mhm.
they had a higher ability to learn new technologies. They used YouTube as a method to be able to learn very intricate level skills. So they literally were taking YouTube videos to learn very specific elements of things to do that were
It
next
does
step.
not sound unfamiliar whatsoever. Sounds
Absolutely. They also
right on point.
one thing also that I found was many of them are not comfortable navigating through the protection of their own rights with their music.
Mm,
They want to put
got it.
music out, but they feel there's a concern that creating music to be commodified, like creating music to
Mhm.
put on the market, it makes them uncomfortable to a degree. So many of them did not have affiliations with performance rights organizations like ASCAP and BMI, so on and so forth. Also, they're very not introspective, but introverted. So
Mhm.
what I did with the plugin was I said, I'm going to create an event that's specifically for producers. It's specifically to help build that skill set.
A
So
hands-on a
right,
hands-on
right.
yeah,
So what we create the first one we created was called the Dirty 30, where we engage with producers who have the capacity to use samples. And we
mhm,
said, if we're going to give you a sample and you got 30 minutes to make a beat out of it. And so this is a different type of environment. It's a different
right,
type of event. It's not, it's held at a brewery, but it's not a party. It's not people are dancing and this, that, and the third. There's people who are there and they're more interested in the actual process than actually coming out to, what I'm saying, party. Now you could drink
right.
beer or do whatever else you do, but
It's an opportunity.
we usually set it off with music and kind of networking and
Yep,
stuff like that, and then we start the process and they have 30 minutes to make a beat out of it. They can bring whatever they want to make the beat. Some guys can make, you see MPC live. Last time we had a guy with Fruity Loops and a Akai Fire. We had some guys that was just using Ableton. We had a guy who brought a 404. We had a couple guys that brought their MPC lives. We had a guy who brought an MPC. He brought an MPC X and a Machine MK3.
yeah, I saw
Um,
those.
you had guys that bring all these different technologies. So,
Mhm,
and it's competitive because
right,
we actually collect money from the producers to participate, and then we get the money back to the winner. So, however
right.
many people come, that's the prize.
I
You know?
mean, if you can't get down with that format, then, I mean, it's come, bring your own stuff, do what you
Right,
wanna do, pay to be in a safe, chill environment with people that
right,
are like you,
right.
and
And
then at the end of the day, you might leave with some money, but I would pay
absolutely,
for that. Well,
we
so you
did.
gotta tell the
And
people where this is.
we do classic hip hop trivia with the people who aren't making beats. So it's kind of
Right.
fun for them
Yep.
to, it's kind of to kind of keep them engaged. That was something that we tried this last one, but it's always a really, really fantastic time for the people that are there. And it gives them the ability to connect. I'm also the lead engineer of Grove Studios out in Ypsilanti, where we have the event. So part of what we do as with the event, the winners, they win free studio time. And the way
Right.
that it's set up, that's a
That's
whole nother
amazing.
story in terms of things that I'm involved in, but everything is relating back to connecting hip hop and education.
Right, and I actually did, I copied the Groove Studios and
Okay.
the plugin, so we'll get both of those in the description too, because you said it's in Ypsilanti, which is outside of, Detroit, right?
It is. It's about 25 minutes outside of Detroit. It's on the other side of it's on the east side of Ann Arbor.
So
Um,
if I put
Ann
this link in there, people can get in touch with you through that?
Absolutely. My
Okay,
email is wallace@grovestudios.space. But
okay.
you can go to grovestudios.space. And the model that they have is ingenious when it comes to working with modern producers. And I'll be happy to talk about that too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that um, this topic of community and how to use the things you know best to bring others together is what I
Mm.
am about. This is, been a journey for me to try to learn enough to do what I want to do. Just
Yeah,
get the bare
absolutely.
minimum, to do what you want to do, and then spread your wings and fly. Get with good people, learn a little bit along the way. So
Right, right.
you've been along with me. It's the moment I believe you were there the day that I was introduced. Like, I had never been outside of basically my town, my state with the music community, because
Okay.
I was on YouTube, but I only had like 20 subscribers, so I wasn't getting in touch with anybody. And I remember that day very clearly, and I just felt like, oh my god, the doors are like wide open. Finally, I can finally at least just talk with somebody about music, because
Right,
I spent a couple years wanting just to talk with somebody,
right.
like in real terms, not over text or whatever. So
If I could give anybody credit for that or making me really pinpoint the fact that that is a dire need within the music making community, because it's one thing if you're making commercial music and you're collaborating at a certain tier, and you're working with artists that are of a certain tier and of a certain ilk, and this is what you do for a living. But there's a lot of producers that are not doing that. The vast majority of producers are guys who, and increasingly more women, who are
Which is
working
awesome.
jobs. They work in other careers, and it's a hobby, or it starts as a hobby, or they have this interest, but it's so difficult in the modern age with streaming, with the proclivity of music that's available on YouTube and people taking beats off YouTube and this, that, and third. It's hard to make a living from it if you don't have the understanding of how. I mean, the vast majority of people who didn't get in the game on that level, um, don't have this opportunity that I have now. I feel like, although I'm not wearing this, I'm not showing the symbols of wealth that's associated sometimes with being, a professional
Culture.
musician or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I make music every day, one way or the other. And I'm making music. The mode that I'm going in is in a different direction though. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
so saying all that to say, I would say the person who really opened my eyes to that was Tashir Say. And
Okay.
Tashir is the owner of Computer Music Academy. And I hadn't been making beats. I hadn't been doing any music because I stepped into school leadership. And being a leader, or being one of the leaders of a school, whether you're in an urban purview or rural or anything, it is a challenge. Uh,
Right.
and it's a challenge that you have to accept wholeheartedly, and you have to give 100% of your effort towards professionally. So I walked away from music several years ago in order to pursue leadership. But I was watching my wife, and I give credit to my wife. My wife bought me a Machine Micro for Christmas one year, and
Isn't that great?
I caught up with Tashir Rasay on YouTube and started watching what he was doing, and it just inspired me to start getting back involved in it. And he was really pushing, you know, he wasn't cutthroat about making music, like, and this
Yeah.
it could be cutthroat and
It's
stuff.
hard to find.
I don't know if I can cuss, but stuff like that kind of turned me off. Like,
Mhm.
I don't I don't I don't want to do anything that's gonna bring a gang of negative energy to me unless I'm getting paid off rip. Because I can
Absolutely.
deal with it if I'm getting paid. But
Right.
anyway, so he was very positive. He was, interested in forcing producers to collaborate, this, that, and the third. I give him a lot of credit. He's still doing it to this day. Check out computermusicacademy.com,
Yep.
CMA
Check them out.
Radio. You'll hear my music on there. You'll hear all my friends' music on there. Because now, as a part of that, or as a result of that, we have been making music together and selling
Mhm.
music together. A lot of us join with some other individuals, people from the digital hustle world. Um, and we
Yeah. Shout out
created,
to Gadget. Shout out to
right.
Gadget.
Shout out to Gadget. Shout out, I give
Absolutely.
Gadget and Tashir.
Another Tashir
Yeah,
guy. Absolutely.
Gadget. And so here I am with CMA. I get invited to this chat, and you have, this producer from Memphis, and this producer from DMV, and this producer from this place and that place. And Gadget is there. And I knew Gadget from the videos that he was making that was capturing content from people like Kev Brown, from people like
Right.
Knots, from people like, and so, I'm cleaning up my house with his videos on on my TV,
Right.
and all of a sudden now me and him cool. And
Right.
so we
And
started
the pr
talking, doing hangouts every week, and just sharing knowledge and sharing game. And we built this kinship to the point where we said, let's just start making music formally. We start meeting once a year in a city. And every year when we met in the city, we made an album. So we just did the third album. I actually have it on this computer I'm looking at you right now on.
yeah.
Now I'm just finishing mixing it so it can be put out. And but it was the experience is very special. So I guess I should just talk about that. That's Dirty
Yeah.
Old Men,
Yes.
Dirty
That's in the
Old
description as
OL.
well.
Yep,
Yep.
dirtyoldman.bandcamp.com. The two project, it should be four projects on there. I think it's Chicago Fire. That was
Big.
done in Chicago. You got Big. We do a
Yep.
remix album every year, and we do album with just our music every year. And this year we did a remix album. I'm not gonna tell you about who we did the remix
Mhm.
album for because it's still not out. But and we got the next album coming out. It's called East Grand. That should be out hopefully in November, closer to the end of November. You should start seeing a whole bunch of stuff about it coming up pretty soon. But that's an album where we had, like, traditionally we would do instrumental albums, primarily with maybe a song with rapping, but this song got rapping virtually on every song with just artists that we cool with. So we had a lot of people who came and contributed to it. Just everything was recorded in a loft on East Grand Boulevard, just east of Woodward. For those of you who know Detroit, and so we called it East Grand, and it's fantastic. I think it's my best work, and I've done a lot.
Yeah, you've been we were talking about this a couple days ago. I remember you saying quite a few months ago, maybe a year ago, like you were at your wit's end with the mixing stuff, and people just can't leave you alone, man. You do such good work. People need that Wallace mix, you know. And I don't know. I mean, the people that he was alluding to in Memphis, that'd be Gigahertz. So
Yeah,
he's on Instagram. You can find him. And then Black Mav and Mental. All these people in the DMV with
yeah,
Gadget as well,
yeah.
and you got more people in Detroit as well.
We
Mike
got
Notes is in Detroit,
Mike
and
Notes in
so
Detroit. Tashira
yep,
Say in Detroit.
yeah,
Mhm.
and Ortez. I mean, you got
Yep,
all kinds of
Fields
yep.
in Detroit. We
Field
got RTO Beats in Oakland. We got Clark the
RTOs in
Spark.
Oakland,
We got Clark the Spark, who is
Clark Spark.
he's from Alabama, based out of Washington, but currently he's overseas with the military. You
That's
got
big. He's still doing his thing.
Got Big Stacks, who's in Philly, and he's
Yep,
act and so
and
what's unique about it was, and you know this, but what's unique about it is the reason we call it the Dirty Old Men is because we are all older guys.
that's
And
right.
well, we also had Blessed Girl, who's one of the Dirty Old Men technically too. She's
Yes.
from Saginaw,
Yep.
but we're all old guys, career guys, guys with, so we're not the traditional demographic that's associated with making hip hop. And I
Yep,
think
and you
that's
guys
what
are doing a great job. Absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
what
One person I need to give a huge shout out to, I'm glad he didn't get said, CX, the producer. That's my guy.
yeah,
Okay,
man.
go
Yeah,
find this guy. If you don't know who CX, the producer is, go find him on YouTube. He was the first show. It was called something different then, but CX, the producer. So,
yeah,
um, anyway, yeah. So, all that's awesome work, and it's great that you're able to find like-minded people, and everybody gels. You know,
that's
and
true.
so that's great. You know, you got to have that. And it takes a good foundation, you know, a couple good leaders, and I think you're good to go. And I don't see anything stopping for you guys as far as, you know, within, you know, like you guys are just going to get to do whatever you want to do, you know.
Absolutely. I think that we're not obsessed with a specific target to meet. There will be watershed moments, and there are watershed moments and indicators of a certain level of success once it's met. But we're not having conversations like, oh, I want to be this and I want to be that. No, we just try to stay consistently working. Uh,
Right.
I know
It's the
for a fact,
journey.
yeah, for me personally, even though I'm involved in a lot of things, I know that I'm going to finish this East Grand album, and then I'm going to be working on a project, um, actually two projects at the same time for some local MCs that we're working with. It's a group called Vietnam.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah, we
follow.
love Vietnam too.
Yep.
um, and a rapper that's with them. His name is Westside. So we're going to be working with them. But I'm also working with Washtenaw County, my brother's keeper, which Washtenaw County is the county that Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor sit in, on a project that is intended to capture the voices of young men of color in the county. And I'm going to be leading the engineers there.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of a joint venture between Washtenaw County, my brother's keeper, and the Ann Arbor Community Foundation and Grove Studios. We're all going to be kind of working together to capture these voices. And my target is kind of just being a project manager. I'm really leaving the engineering to the young men. We're leaving the producing to the young men. We're leaving the song selection to the young men. We're leaving the videotape because we're going to do a documentary with it too. We're leaving all that to the young men. So I get to just kind of sit in the back on that, and I'm kind of happy about being able to play that role. But being able to kind of put it together, kind of Dr. Dre it, is kind of always
Right.
my target.
It's
Like,
always been your wish.
yep,
That's
to be
always
able
been
to
your
kind of,
wish.
I like to be able to mold it and be able to kind of make it fit a certain thing. And you'll hear that in like some of the projects that I've done too. It always fits a certain thing.
You know, with the teacher the teacher thing, it's that can be scary. Like, I know because you've had you know your kids in school, and the drills that are implemented in schools and stuff, they're meant for safety. They're meant to
Yeah.
help people that are unfamiliar with the process, and so if something happens, it's muscle memory. And then when you have kids, my daughter, when she's at school and something happens, last year the school was locked down. There was a gunman, it was on the news and all this other stuff. So, and I live less than a half a mile from the school. I was completely freaked out. Come to find out, it was somebody calling in threats that weren't valid, but it still had the same effect. You just didn't have the gunman, but we all panicked just like we would if it was real.
Right.
So, as a person who has kids, and as a teacher, how do you think we're handling our school, drills, and the way that we handle? Because is it state to state monitored? Is it a countrywide governing body, or how does as far as the system goes?
I think schools are obligated to be reactive because schools are a reflection of the values of society. If the true values of society, it's one thing to
Mm.
purport, to not purport, but it's one thing to profess certain values, and we value democracy, and we value fairness, and we value liberty. But schools capture all of the negative inertia from society, be it this big conversation about vaping, and it's like, oh, we have to address vaping because it's being advertised to kids. Everything is being advertised to kids.
Everything, yeah,
Everything indirectly
everything.
because kids spend money so frivolously, and kids spend money
Mhm.
so impulsively. And so, like, I look at these drills, and even I made a Facebook post about it recently, about just the experience that my kids told me that they had with making it. And I realized that, that's no construct of the school. That's not a construct of a school. That's the construct of a society that is having a very difficult time, from a political standpoint, to manage its priorities.
Right. Yeah.
Is mental health a priority? Is gun control a priority? I mean, even going back to the whole vaping argument, there's this hubbub about, these oils that's harming people, and you've had a few people who have died, and I mean, God bless the dead at all. I mean, but there's talking about vaping, this banning of vaping, but cigarettes kill 5 million people worldwide every year.
Yeah. Where's
But
the
ain't nobody
priority
doing
there?
it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that doesn't
So
make sense.
schools are political organizations themselves to a degree. They're supposed to be service
Right.
organizations, but districts end up capturing all of the negative things that occur in society and having to ultimately respond to it. And that's what puts them in a very precarious position.
Yeah. You've got people that want the laws, and then you got people that make the laws, and the people that are making the laws don't always want the same thing that a lot of us want. I don't know. It's a lot of economically driven policies, and I don't know. It's like you said. It's like it's a business in its own. It's like a prison. Not no. That's not. But it's a
Listen,
money. It's a school lunches and all that stuff.
so in the 19, I'll say this: there's a lot that's said about school to prison pipeline. What I will say is, there was legislation that was passed in the mid 90s that led to zero tolerance laws and led to um, very negative outcomes for young people. Um, I've worked in a school, I've suspended kids, I've kicked kids out of school, I've had to expel kids, and it's always very difficult to do. For me, it was because
Right.
I
Right.
always felt like if I kick this kid out of my school, I am exposing them to the elements. And I've had
Yeah.
kids be expelled, real talk. I've had kids be expelled and then turn up a year later dead in an abandoned house.
Yeah.
So I understand the implications 100%. And So again, we mimic this we mimic the values of the true values of society.
Yeah,
You know, I think that as a society, we value the ability to exclude people.
that's
Uh,
true, that's true. I hate that.
Right. And
I
so
hate it.
now the good news is there's a lot of pockets of education that are focusing on supporting kids through trauma, supporting
Mhm.
kids with mental health issues, being able to meet the needs of kids where they are, as opposed to standing as judges and judging
Right.
kids. And I mean, really, that's the foundation of where I am. I'm like, the kids know hip hop. The kids
Yeah.
respect hip hop, and you may not agree with its content or some of its content. You may not agree with how it's being accessed, but it's undeniably a cultural phenomenon that you have to use in order to touch the lives of kids. So why not do it in a way that's gonna give them transferable skills to be able to do other things?
So in your experiences now where you are with everything you've learned, all the knowledge you've gained,
Mhm.
your educational background, do you find yourself in a creative sense censoring your own material?
You know, it's interesting that you brought that up because when I first got to Eastern, I sat on a panel. And when I had to introduce myself, I introduced myself as, I'm the director of a program. I'm a former principal. I'm a former teacher, this, that, and third. But I'm also a producer. I also have records available for sale or whatever. And it was the first time in my professional life that I had done so
So you
because
crossed that.
there's always been this innate thinking in myself that as I was living in both worlds to a degree where being a musician kind of undermined my ability to be a school leader, and being a school leader undermined my ability to be a musician. So coming to Eastern, that was the first time that I was able to kind of sit in this world that a lot of people are not sitting in. So on the last project that I did, at the end of the day, I recognized the fact that, and I'm actually studying music as catharsis right now, like how people use music to deal with grief, because I was dealing with a lot of grief and loss over the last few years. And I found that in choosing the songs that I did and constructing the album, I actually was making a lot of subconscious statements about me trying to get out of that mindset, me trying to
Okay.
deal with my thoughts. And there's a lot, I mean, it's profanity, it's a lot of profanity. It's a lot of negative, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of, I mean, it's not a lot because it's instrumental. It's an instrumental album, but so verbally, like linguistically, it's not a lot. But there are elements on there that are very raw. I have a song on there called Teacher Teacher that from an energy perspective, it is violent. It's
Mhm,
violent. And
mhm.
really what I found was it was intended to capture what a new teacher goes through.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I totally understand what you're saying, and um my wife and I have these talks too about music and its purpose in the growing mind, and how, a lot of times if people will allow themselves the pathway to allowing music to be the healing,
Right.
the healing power, it's meditative, even the cursing, for a lot of us, like, if you're going to imitate your idols, or you're going to, redo things, sample things, historically, we have like classic albums that have a lot of profanity. So if you're sampling things that are coming from a classic era, you want to include the bits that made it cool, and
Yeah.
I have one here. We talked about this earlier. I just There's a track on this project called Dismissal.
Mhm.
And which one was this on? Which Okay, this one is, I can't get back to the project name.
At the
But
end of the day.
at the end of the day, okay, that's off this new one. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So if you're cool, I'm gonna play this and we can
absolutely.
just
I,
have
I
a.
act- I'm actually doing an autoethnography about it, and I'll be happy to talk about that in the
Okay, cool.
time we have left.
All right, so let's hope this all works like I want it to. Let's see.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day.
You see what low grade you made on your weekly mathematics test? More than half of you failed. Most of those who passed just got by. Nobody had 100%. This is the poorest class I've had in a long, long time. Most of you have no foundation at all. Now, the trouble's with your attitude. You don't pay enough attention in class. You don't do enough work outside of it. You don't know what the word study means. You haven't the slightest idea. I tell you right now that unless you get over your lazy habits and come up to the standards I've set for this class, many of you will have the pleasure of repeating this course next semester.
Hey, pause.
To abandon her class. She's of questionable mental health. Oh, no, wait a minute. You're talking about me now. Never mind, Miss Hendricks. She's talking about my mental health. I'll have something to say about it. This is character assassination we got going on now. Miss Hendricks, you abandoned your class, leaving a note on the blackboard, going to kill yourself. You damn right I did. You want to know why? Because I had it. No, see, I want to respond to this sucker ice queen. Let me tell you something. Let me tell all of you something. The reason I had
Oh, my bad.
day after day after day after day and try to break through to a bunch of kids who don't want to listen, don't want to learn, and don't want to give me the decency of being quiet. Harry said shut off a gun. I would have rolled in a big cabin if I knew where to get one. I would have tried anything. And you show me a teacher who doesn't almost lose his or her mind sometimes, and I'll show you a teacher who's not trying. I can show you some parents who aren't. You sit in the school thinking jobs done. It's up to the teachers now. Well, it doesn't work that way. You gotta get in this seat. Kids coming every day, singing their jingle. Those who can't do, teach. They get that from their parents. I know what you think of us. Well, let me tell you, we're in there doing every damn day. And a lot of the doing we do is parenting.
No, because I don't even know what to do anymore. I try to maintain a structure that fosters a learning environment. And I got teachers initiating walkouts and adopted hookers and beating the crap out of each other. You know, I don't know what to do anymore. I got 35 students for every room. I got nobody to teach them. And if I lose 2 more, I might have another right because you two are just so damn popular. You think I don't want to hit somebody, huh? But you know what? We don't get to do that. You know why? Because we're teachers.
Then we're going into the next track on there, but that is so smooth. I love that track, and there's some serious content in there. Reflective, I guess, of where you're at and, you know, the way that.
I kind of want to explain something with that, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And,
sure.
You know, I don't know how much time we have left, but the reason that I started the project like that was because just like I'm wearing this sweatshirt. This is the high school I was at. I realized that was the last song that I did that ended up going on the project. And what I found out in my reflection was that I had a great amount of guilt in leaving the high school I was at, because I felt as though I had such a connection with so many kids. And I knew that on a very surface level that I advocated for them on a day-to-day basis, and I wasn't going to be there. So I had a certain degree of guilt about leaving, because I was doing something that at the time was good for my family. It was good for my situation involving taking care of my mom. It was good for my career goals and everything, but I still felt guilty about that. But so that first song being about education and doing music about education was important to me, making sure that I left something, that I left what I had learned. And what I had learned was the first skit on that song is from the 50s. This conversation, you don't know what you're doing. You didn't take the test serious. You know, all of these things. That's the same conversation that happens today. That hasn't changed amongst a lot of teachers to say, this is all your fault. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. So I'm very critical of teachers who aren't willing to take that level of ownership over what they do in order to make a difference in the lives of children. The fact of the matter is, whoever that guy was had not constructed a relationship with the kids to a degree where they were motivated to put in the work. And I'm just being honest.
That's the perspective. When I hear it, I'm hearing it from a student who feels let down. That's how I interpret it
Right.
completely.
Right.
I hadn't even really thought about it from, actually, I know this is probably ridiculous, but I hadn't really even thought about it from the teacher's point of view. I was thinking about it
Right.
purely from the student hearing that he's not good enough, he sucks, this and that.
Because that voice
So,
is hidden. You got to think
yeah, yeah,
in popular culture, that voice is typically hidden. You don't
right,
hear that frustration. You hear the Fast Times at Ridgemont High view of teachers.
right,
You hear the Ferris Bueller's Day Off view of teachers. You hear um, the teacher and teachers can victimize people. So you had that skit, and then and actually it was a part of a classroom management video, where at the end of the day, it kind of goes back to what you have to do in order to create relationships with kids. But then it talks about that second piece where the woman is talking for a long time is because she was being chastised by a board of education about supposedly some conduct that she had with regard to um, doing something to manage her students. And she talked about how parents, the engagement of parents, and how parents. So, and then you had the administrator that was at the end who was talking to his teachers like, you
right,
making my job harder too. So schools are kind of like this amalgamation of dynamics, where it's almost like a sociological experiment where people are engaging in you people all have these different interests, when in actuality the primary there's no business like education. The
right,
primary business of the day is how do you sell in urban schools, in schools with a lot of at-risk kids, so to speak. And people can disagree with me if they want, but how do you provide an environment that literally is soaked in hope about what's going to happen when they leave here? So you want to motivate kids, you got to show them that there's something bigger than what they're doing. There's something big. You're going to be a part of something bigger, and we're going to build those skills. But we don't always, we say that, but that's not
right,
always that's not, our actions don't show that, so to speak. So I
right.
felt as though I captured that
Yeah,
on this
yeah.
project.
I commend anybody that can take something that's so personal and find a way to wrap it all up into something that people can, hold and listen to and stuff, because you've basically taken a lot of your experiences over the last however long and made it artistic in a way that's enjoyable. And then, you're also, whether it, you're teaching people, and sometimes you're teaching people how to act towards each other. And some people, I guess that's what I try to look for, is people that, when somebody's not in the room, does that person talk badly about others? Like if you talk badly about your best friend when they're not there, I wonder what you say about me, And I think that you're having you're having a very good influence over our whole community. People like yourself and Gadget, and Tashir, and there's a few others too that just they do a good job of keeping their head down, lead by example, and including people where they can. And,
Absolutely.
that's really what this music community is supposed to be about, at least in my opinion, inclusion, because,
Right.
we all don't have a plug-in place to go to. I wish I had a place like that around here. That would be amazing. But yeah, so I guess I get mine here.
I understand. I understand. I think, Will, I learned that having money builds a certain level of power, builds a certain level of influence. But if your power and influence is focused around how much money you have, it's not real.
Yeah.
If you have a certain amount of influence that you build by serving others, then your power comes from that.
Right.
And money can come from that too. So what I committed myself to do early in my career was, I want to have the ability to go places or be able to do things where if I need something, I have somebody I can talk to,
Right.
and I pray that being positive, doing the right things, at the expense sometimes of my own personal level, my own personal comfort, at the expense of having to sacrifice my income to a degree, will at some point, and it has. I can't say that it hasn't already, but I feel like it gives me the ability to move how I want to move. Because if I'm just
Yes.
doing what I'm doing for money, then I'm gonna do any damn thing for money.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
just not where I am. That's just not who I am as a man. So you're right. I look at Gadget. Gadget got a great deal of influence because he's he's served other people.
He will always respond if somebody gets in touch, or and that says a lot, because treating a person that you barely know as well as you treat people that you know very well, you never know who you're coming across. You never know who you're talking to or who that person might end up being. And we can pinpoint it as a word. We can call it karma if you want. But when you do good, and you do the right things, and you have good intentions, I think eventually people see that. It may take some time. It may take a long time, but it does eventually come through the woodworks. And so, I remember just a perfect example of it. Like when I met my wife, oh my God, I had to see her parents. And like trying to tell them that I was the guy for her and for her family. I was just like, yeah, why don't we just let time do its thing? And you'll see eventually, And so it's a perfect example, because I didn't think I belonged. I didn't think I belonged there. And you just keep pushing, keep doing the right things. And I think that you're being blessed. You have great people, and it's hard to find people that you can call friends. It really is hard.
That's true.
So there's a lot of acquaintances out there, and there's a lot of, followers and whatever you want to call them, subscribers, Facebook friends, but friends that will come to you, that's rare. It's
That's
rare.
true.
So, we've gotten kind of deep here on some level. If there's you got any, funny stuff you can share with us, you got anything that, what did you do besides mixing today?
Oh,
did you eat anything?
What did I do? So today, I took my kids to school. I ate breakfast. I sat down and I ate breakfast. And
Okay.
when I get
What
an
does Mr. Wallace eat in the morning?
man, look, I am a pancake.
He's a pancake.
Connoisseur.
Do you like Dilla's?
Who?
Dilla's
Donuts?
Yeah. So when I was in Detroit, I got a late text message that says, I'm at Dilla's Donuts, and come find me. And I get there, and I didn't know. I just didn't know what it was.
Okay. So Dilla's Donuts is cool. They got kind of like some quirky flavors.
They do.
Stick with the glazed joints.
Yeah.
The
blueberry one I had is good. Yeah.
Shout out to, and I don't know if you want me to call her out, but shout out to Boog Brown, dope rapper, female rapper. She's there, and it's good to see her bright smiling face when you go there. So if you're in Detroit, make sure you go to Dilla's Donuts.
There's a couple really good spots in Detroit. If you've only got a few days, where should people go? Like if they're in town just for a few days and they want to catch a couple historical sites, I know of a couple.
Seeing the river walk is always good. You look across the river and it's Canada. Going to Belle Isle is cool. Going on Livernois. Livernois is really coming together really well, just in terms of the avenue of fashion.
You got to have a pick outside Motown.
You got to go to Motown. Yeah, you're right. The Hart Plaza, kind of, with the big fist and the statue and stuff like that. Riding the queue line up and down Woodward. They got all of the stadiums right together.
Man, Detroit's a great city.
Real cool. It's nice. The corporate elements down there have done a lot to develop it down there. It's not a lot of money it's a small amount of people that's making all the money. I just say that.
Right. Okay.
But I can't deny the fact that it is a pleasant experience when you take your family down there. and do different things. I came front. So
I mean, I did my first official record digging in Detroit.
okay.
I was there. So, I got pictures of that. It was awesome. I had my wife with me, because I never really was a record sampling guy. I started with music and just started doing sampling off of my phone and stuff like that. So this is a whole other world that I enjoy a lot,
Absolutely.
So it is an art form in itself. I was one of those people that 10 years ago that thought taking people's stuff was lame.
Okay.
And then as I understood, because got to understand, I was a heavy metal person. So when I was 19, I finally was introduced to hip hop when I got out of the state and joined the military. And so it was all Southern rap, fast paced stuff. And I didn't even get into East Coast rap until like 2004 because I was in the South. So, and then, so when I finally got around to boom bap, which was really not that long ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it's a whole other world. And I love trying to integrate because I'm a no genre guy. I don't want to, I feel like I'm kind of like an interpreter. Like I interpret different types of music. Doesn't mean that I'm like proficient in any of them. I just like to just make noises and make them, into try to make something out of a terrible noise, So it's different strokes for different folks. And I love the vinyl thing and just trying to keep my mind inspired. So there's all kinds.
You know what I would tell you is that in my research, making music always benefits the creator tenfold more than it does the person that hears it. And we know that listening to music is a cognitive process that, where your mind has to take in this information and transition it into something, and it may, activate something in your memory or something like that, but it always benefits the person that creates it. So you don't have to fit in a genre. Music is naturally flawed, and we forget that because of technology. Technology allows us to remove as many flaws as possible. And that's why people obsess over mixing so much.
Right.
Because, mixing it's an art and a science. And you always want to have this perfect mix, but the imperfections in the music that you make it what it is for some reason. I know that's kind of strange to say.
No, I'm just grasping this concept like in the last year.
What I would tell you is, continue to make mistakes, but continue to do what you like. Because as soon as you start making it, as soon as you start making it for somebody
other people
else, as soon as you start doing that and it's not what you like, then it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for some people, I think I know a couple other people that are the same way, and when they're trying to accomplish something, they kind of dive in and then they kind of go OCD for a little while and try to, because I'm a very narrow-minded as far as like what I can focus on at once. I can't have any distractions. I have to either do one thing or something else.
Me too.
Like, this is like very like too much, but when I'm trying to do boom bap stuff, I'm like in that, I try to stay there for a little bit because I'm just trying to understand. Because if I leave the space I'm working in, I start forgetting things immediately.
Right.
From that moment, I'm already forgetting things. So if I keep doing it for a shorter, for a short extended, I guess, period of time, then I'll retain more. And so it's kind of like a little thing that happens, I guess. I don't know if a lot of people are like that, but like you do one, style of music for a little bit and then you'll do another and then another. I guess at some point you'll be able to transition, between the two and whatever. But, RTO Beats actually gave me some good advice once. And he was just saying, keep it really, really, really simple.
Yeah.
And, it's really in the nuance. It isn't about how many or how many sounds you have or what kind of sounds. It's the nuance in the sounds. So anytime you're able to modulate or whatever or affect something, you're able to affect the sounds in the track a little bit better. So yeah, it's just everybody has their way, but
Absolutely.
yeah. So is there anything else you wanted to hit on, or do you have any final thoughts on why you're here, or like why things that you want to tell anybody that might be seeing this?
Just I recognize that the majority of people who probably would watch this are probably people who make music, this, that, or third. And I would really tell them to just continue to be encouraged, continue to believe that it means something. And that's principally it. I would just tell everybody who's watching to just continue to stay diligent in it, and continue to
Put your hours in.
put your time in, and just continue to learn and do it for yourself. And interact with other people who are doing it via the internet. I mean, via the internet or otherwise, but I definitely would recommend finding people around you who are also making music, because there's a language and a literacy associated with it that makes us unique and makes us special. And somebody can always teach you to do something that you can't do. As the most experienced person who is doing music or really doing anything can always learn something from watching somebody else, or learn something from somebody. So go into it with that attitude. I don't subscribe to the attitude that it has to be competitive. I think that competition is good, and it breeds a certain level of quality out of you. I know that getting involved in like battling and stuff, it makes me step my game up, definitely. But it's not always that. It's also
Right.
building with people. It's also adding stuff to the table. But definitely, if you got people that's beat battling and all that, you definitely need to get engaged in that, because that will bring the best out of you. But just continue to make music. That's
Find
all.
like-minded people. Find like-minded people, and just keep doing what you love to do.
Absolutely.
So, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you for being here, Rod, and it's been great to learn more, and I will probably be having my wife would like to do one at some point, and talk about the mind and music, and growing, with kids and stuff like that. So maybe I'll get back in touch with you down the road. Maybe it can be a 3-party type thing, because I think that could take a whole, especially when you have a couple people who are knowledgeable on the youth and the mind. It could be a very interesting discussion. So, but I really appreciate you for being here. And for anybody else that's watching, you can find a lot of his stuff in the description now. I'll be putting some more in there. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And thanks again, Rod, for being here.
No problem. Thank you very much, man. It was great to be here. I appreciate you.
All right, man. All right, guys. We'll see y'all later.
All right.
Peace.
Take care, man.